Welcome to my channel, Lobby 22. Hold on because it's going to be something incredible. My name is Ethan Wilson, and at 40 I thought I had it all figured out. My Chicago bookstore, Pages of Time, was thriving. My marriage to Sophie was solid, or so I believed. 15 years together, countless late-night talks, and shared dreams of a quiet life filled with books and love. But on a chilly October evening, as I arranged a new shipment of novels, my phone buzzed with a message that burned my world to ashes. Ethan, I'm done. I deserve better. Jake and I are heading to Los Angeles. Good luck. Sophie's words hit like a punch. Jake, her 25-year-old personal trainer, all muscle and smug grins. She drained our joint account, $50,000, every cent we'd saved for a future we planned together. My hands didn't shake as I read it. I didn't collapse. Instead, I helped a customer pick out a mystery novel, my voice steady, my smile practiced. Only a slight tightness around my eyes betrayed the storm inside. The signs had been there for months, and I'd ignored them. Sophie's late-night workouts that stretched past midnight. Her phone suddenly locked with a new password. Receipts for dinners I never attended tucked away in her purse. 3 months ago, I found a charge for a $200 dinner at the Signature Room on a night she claimed to be at a work event. I brushed it off, blaming my paranoia. But now, her message laid it bare. She'd traded me for a younger model, taking our savings with her. I locked the bookstore early that night, the neon sign flickering as I flipped it off. Back at our brownstone, my brownstone, inherited from my grandfather and kept solely in my name despite Sophie's hints to add hers, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the life we built. The framed photo from our wedding, her laughing in a white dress, mocked me. She looked different now, chasing youth with tight dresses and a new obsession with spin classes. I wasn't bitter, not yet. I was calculating. Opening my laptop, I dug into our bank statements. The joint account was empty, as she'd bragged. But I'd opened a separate account months ago after that Signature Room receipt raised my suspicions. Call it instinct. When Sophie pushed to simplify our finances by merging everything, I'd agreed, transferring just enough to the joint account to keep her unsuspicious, about $10,000, enough for 2 months of regular deposits. My personal savings, the bookstore's profits, were safe in my private account. She thought she'd clean me out. She was wrong. Her next message came as I sipped coffee, the bitterness matching my mood. Don't beg, Ethan. I'm happy now. I'll send for my things later. I could picture her, smirking, probably curled up with Jake in some overpriced hotel, thinking she'd won. Jake, who I'd met at her gym's open house, all charm and no depth, young enough to be her kid brother. I didn't reply. Instead, I called my lawyer, David, who I'd consulted after finding a hotel receipt in her coat pocket 2 months back. She made her move, I said, voice calm. Are the papers ready? Ready to file tomorrow, David replied. You got enough to nail her texts, receipts, bank records. She won't see it coming. I smiled, the first real one all day. Sophie thought she'd played me, but I'd been watching, waiting, preparing. The receipts I'd saved, the screenshots of her messages, the bank statements showing her secret spending, they were all in a folder on my laptop labeled insurance. Every late night workout, every work trip that didn't add up, I documented. She'd mocked my meticulous bookkeeping as obsessive. Now it was my weapon. Another buzz. You're outdated, Ethan. Jake gets me. Your little bookstore won't save you from being alone. Her cruelty stung, but it also fueled me. I checked our credit card statement, new charges for first-class tickets to Los Angeles and a suite at a boutique hotel. She was using our joint card, rubbing it in. I dialed the bank. This is Ethan Wilson. I need to report fraudulent charges. Cancel the tickets and hotel bookings made today. And remove Sophie as an authorized user. The representative, hearing the context, didn't hesitate. Done, Mr. Wilson. Anything else? Send me confirmation, I said. I imagined Sophie and Jake at the airport tomorrow, their smug plans unraveling. She thought she'd broken me, but I was just getting started. As I closed the laptop, my phone lit up again. This time, it was Emma, Sophie's younger sister. Ethan, I just heard. She told us you were controlling, that you pushed her away. But I saw her texts. She lied to us. Emma's voice shook, her loyalty to her sister cracking. I'm so sorry. Don't be, I said. Just tell me what she's been saying. Emma hesitated, then spilled. Sophie had spun a tale of me stifling her, painted herself as a victim to their family. But Emma had seen the truth in those texts, Sophie's gloating, her casual cruelty. I forwarded Emma a screenshot of Sophie's latest message, the one mocking my bookstore. Keep this, I said. You'll see who she really is. Hanging up, I poured a glass of whiskey, the good stuff I'd saved for a special occasion. This qualified. My bookstore, my home, my life, they were mine, not hers. Tomorrow, she'd learn that underestimating me was her biggest mistake. The next morning, I woke to the quiet of my brownstone, the absence of Sophie's perfume lingering like a ghost. Her betrayal still stung, but I pushed it down, fueling my focus. Today wasn't for mourning, it was for building the trap she'd walk into. My bookstore, Pages of Time, opened at 9, and I had a full day of customers ahead, but my mind was on the folder labeled Insurance on my laptop. Every piece of evidence I'd collected over months was there, waiting to be weaponized. I poured coffee and opened the bank app. The joint account was a husk $50,000 gone, just as Sophie's text had boasted. But my private account, tucked away after that suspicious signature room receipt, held the bookstore's profits and my personal savings. She'd thought she gutted me, but I'd been one step ahead. 3 months ago, when she pushed to streamline our finances, I'd left just enough in the joint account to avoid suspicion, $10,000, enough to cover 2 months of deposits. Her greed blinded her to my caution. Another text buzzed in. "Ethan, don't make this messy. Jake and I are starting fresh. You'll get over it." Her arrogance was almost laughable. I pictured her in some trendy LA cafe, sipping overpriced lattes with Jake, oblivious to the storm I was brewing. I didn't reply. Instead, I pulled up the credit card statement. New charges, $3,000 for first-class tickets, $1,500 for a boutique hotel in Los Angeles. She was still using our joint card, flaunting her betrayal. I screenshot every transaction, adding them to my folder. My phone rang. Emma, Sophie's sister, again. "Ethan, I found something," she said, her voice low. "Sophie emailed Mom saying you were controlling, that you forced her to leave. But I checked her phone last week, she left it unlocked. There were texts to Jake, planning this for months. She laughed about draining the account." Emma's words confirmed what I'd suspected. Sophie hadn't just left, she'd orchestrated a heist, thinking I'd crumble. "Send me those texts," I said. Minutes later, my inbox pinged. Sophie's messages to Jake were damning. "Ethan won't know what hit him. Accounts cleared. We're set for LA." Another, "His little bookstore can't keep him warm." I forwarded them to David, my lawyer, with a note, "More ammo." His reply was swift, "This is gold. Keep collecting. We'll file tomorrow." I leaned back, the weight of her words settling in. Sophie thought my bookstore was a quaint hobby, not the thriving business it had become. Pages of Time brought in more than her marketing job ever did, but I kept its finances separate, a habit she'd mocked as paranoid. Now, that paranoia was my shield. I'd started the bookstore before we married, registering it solely in my name. She'd hinted at merging it into our joint assets, but I'd resisted, citing tax simplicity. Another instinct that paid off. Mid-morning, I stepped into the bookstore, the familiar scent of paper and ink grounding me. A regular, Mrs. Carter, browsed the mystery section. "Ethan, you look tired," she said, her eyes kind. "Everything okay?" "Just life," I smiled, ringing up her purchase. I didn't let on that my world had imploded. Instead, I focused on the plan. Between customers, I reviewed my evidence, receipts for dinners, hotel stays, even a $500 spa day Sophie claimed was a work expense. Each was timestamped, cross-referenced with her lies about working late. I'd started tracking her patterns after noticing her gym visits didn't match her paychecks. 6 months ago, she'd come home smelling of cologne I didn't recognize. I didn't confront her, I watched. Another text from Sophie. "Jake says you're pathetic, clinging to that dusty shop. Move on." Her cruelty was a gift, each message another nail in her coffin. I screenshot it, adding it to the folder. Then I called the bank again. "Any updates on those canceled charges?" I asked. "Confirmed," the representative said. "The airline and hotel bookings are voided. Sophie Wilson is off the card. We flagged the account for fraud per your request." I thanked her, imagining Sophie's face when she'd hit the airport tomorrow, her dream escape grounded. Emma called again that afternoon. "She's telling everyone you were emotionally distant," she said. "But I saw her with Jake at a bar last month, laughing about how easy it was to fool you. I should have told you sooner." "You're telling me now," I said. "That's enough." Emma's guilt was palpable, but her betrayal of Sophie was my gain. I asked her to keep me posted on Sophie's plans, knowing every detail strengthened my case. By evening, I met David at his office. He spread my evidence across his desk, texts, receipts, bank statements. "She's dug her own grave," he said. "The texts alone prove intent to defraud. The court will eat this up. You want to serve her in LA. Let her think she's won," I said. "Serve her when she's back." I wanted her to feel the ground shift beneath her, just as I had. As I walked home, my phone buzzed again. "Sophie, you'll regret dragging this out. Jake's worth it." I didn't respond. Instead, I poured another whiskey, toasting to her overconfidence. She thought she'd outsmarted me, but I'd been playing chess while she played checkers. Tomorrow, she'd learn what it meant to underestimate Ethan Wilson. The morning after Sophie's latest taunt, I opened pages of Time with a calm I hadn't felt in days. Her words, "Jake says you're pathetic," burned, but they sharpened my focus. She thought she'd won, jetting off to LA with our money, but I'd already pulled the rug out. The canceled tickets and hotel bookings were just the start. Today, I tightened the noose. At the bookstore, I served customers, my smile masking the gears turning in my head. Between ringing up sales, I checked my email. The bank confirmed the fraud report. Sophie's charges $3,000 for flights, $1,500 for a hotel were voided. She and Jake were likely stranded at the airport, their LA escape in ruins. I imagined her rage, her smug grin fading as the airline clerk shook their head. It felt good, but I wasn't done. Emma called at noon, her voice tense. "Ethan, Sophie's freaking out. The tickets didn't work and the hotel canceled their stay. She's blaming you, saying you sabotaged her." "Good," I said. "What else?" "She's telling Mom you're vindictive, that you're trying to ruin her life. But I sent you those texts from her phone. She was laughing about taking your money, Ethan. She planned this for months." I opened Emma's email. The texts were worse than I'd thought. "Ethan's clueless. We'll live it up in LA while he mopes in his shop." Another, "Took every cent. He'll learn to let go." I forwarded them to David, my lawyer. "Add these to the file," I wrote. "She's done." David called an hour later. "The divorce papers are filed. We've got her texts, the bank records, the receipts. It's airtight. She tried to claim half your bookstore, but it's registered in your name pre-marriage. She has no leg to stand on." "She's claiming my business?" I asked, gripping the phone. "Tried to. Said it grew during the marriage, so she's entitled. But your separate accounts and records shut that down. We're serving her tomorrow when she's back in Chicago. Want to freeze the joint assets now?" "Do it," I said. "Let her feel the squeeze." By afternoon, another text from Sophie. "You think you're clever, canceling our trip? You're nothing without me." Her desperation was showing, cracks in her confidence. I didn't reply. Instead, I pulled up my insurance folder, adding her latest message. Every word she sent was another bullet for David to fire in court. Emma texted again. "She's back in Chicago, staying at a cheap motel. Jake's furious, says she lied about the money." I smirked. Jake, her golden boy, was unraveling her plan faster than I could. I pictured them in a dingy room arguing over a future that didn't exist. That evening, I met David at his office. He laid out the strategy. "We're not just going for divorce. We're hitting her with financial misconduct. The texts prove intent to defraud. The court will order her to repay the $50,000 she took. And your bookstore? Untouchable. What about her claim on it?" I asked. "Dead on arrival. You kept it separate, documented every penny. She's got nothing but her own lies." I nodded, a weight lifting. Sophie had mocked my bookkeeping, called it obsessive. Now it was my fortress. I'd started pages of Time with a loan from my grandfather long before Sophie. Its profits funded our life, but I'd never mixed them with our joint account. She'd seen it as a hobby, I saw it as my legacy. Another buzz. "Sophie, you'll pay for this, Ethan. Jake and I will figure it out." I laughed, forwarding it to David. Her threats were hollow, a cornered animal lashing out. I pictured her in that motel, Jake pacing, their dream of LA reduced to a budget room and bad coffee. Emma called again, her voice softer now. I confronted her, showed her the texts I sent you. She screamed, called me a traitor. "But Ethan, I saw who she really is. I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner." "You're speaking now," I said. "That's what matters." "I found something else," she added. "A receipt in her bag for a diamond necklace, $2,000 charged to your card last month. She said it was for a client gift. I scanned it for you." The email pinged. The receipt was another piece of the puzzle, proof of her reckless spending. I sent it to David, who texted back, "She's burying herself. Keep her talking." I poured a whiskey, the same bottle I'd opened the night before. Sophie thought she'd outplayed me, but every move she made dug her hole deeper. Tomorrow, she'd be served divorce papers at that motel, her lies exposed. I raised my glass to the quiet brownstone, my bookstore, my life. She tried to take it all, but I was ready to fight and win. The courthouse loomed over me as I stepped inside, my folder of evidence tucked under my arm like a shield. Today was the day Sophie would face the consequences of her betrayal. I'd spent months preparing texts, receipts, bank records, all meticulously gathered. Her smug messages, her theft of our $50,000 joint account, her attempt to claim my bookstore, pages of Time, it was all about to unravel. I was Ethan Wilson, 40, and I wasn't here to lose. Sophie arrived late, striding in with a new designer dress that screamed desperation to impress. Jake trailed behind, his gym rat swagger diminished, eyes darting nervously. He didn't sit close to her. The cracks in their alliance were obvious, and I allowed myself a small smile. My lawyer, David, leaned over. "She's got nothing," he whispered. "Your records are ironclad." The judge, a stern woman with sharp eyes, called the hearing to order. David stood first, laying out our case with surgical precision. "Your Honor, Sophie Wilson drained a joint account of $50,000, used our client's credit card for unauthorized purchases, and attempted to claim half of his premarital business, Pages of Time. We have texts proving intent to defraud, bank statements showing her spending, and receipts contradicting her alibis." He projected Sophie's messages on a screen. "Ethan's clueless. We'll live it up in LA while he mopes. Another took every cent. He'll learn to let go." The courtroom was silent, the words damning. David continued. "Mrs. Wilson charged $3,000 for flights and $1,500 for a hotel canceled by Mr. Wilson for fraud. She also bought a $2,000 necklace, claiming it was a client gift. Here's the receipt." He held up Emma's scan, the final nail. Sophie's lawyer, a harried man in a cheap suit, scrambled. "My client believed she was entitled to the funds, Your Honor. The bookstore grew during the marriage, so she deserves a share." David didn't flinch. Pages of Time was founded before the marriage, solely in Mr. Wilson's name. Its finances were kept separate, as these records show. He presented my ledgers, every transaction logged, untouchable by Sophie's claims. Mrs. Wilson mocked the business as a dusty shop, yet now seeks to profit from it. The judge turned to Sophie. "You admit to emptying the account?" She shifted, voice small. "I thought it was fair. I needed a fresh start." "By committing fraud?" The judge's brow arched. "And using a joint card for personal trips?" Sophie's lawyer tried again. Mr. Wilson's actions canceling the trip were vindictive. David countered, "Prudent, Your Honor. He protected his assets from further misuse. Mrs. Wilson's texts show intent, not entitlement." I glanced at Sophie. Her confidence was gone, replaced by a flicker of panic. Jake stared at his phone, avoiding her gaze. Emma, sitting in the back, caught my eye and nodded slightly. She turned on her sister after seeing those texts, her loyalty now mine. The judge reviewed my documents, the bookstore's premarital registration, my separate accounts, the brownstone deed in my name. "Mr. Wilson, you've shown remarkable foresight," she said. "Mrs. Wilson, your actions suggest deliberate misconduct. The court orders the joint account funds $50,000 returned within 48 hours. All joint assets are frozen pending final settlement. Mr. Wilson's business and property are separate and untouchable." Sophie's face crumpled. Her lawyer whispered frantically, but she had no response. Jake stood, muttering something, and left the courtroom. I heard later he dumped her that afternoon, unwilling to stick around without the promise of LA luxury. Her dream escape was now a motel reality. Outside, Emma approached. "She tried to spin it," Ethan said. "You drove her to this." "But those texts." I showed Mom. "She's done defending her." "Thanks, Emma," I said. "You didn't have to choose sides." "I chose the truth," she replied, eyes fierce. My phone buzzed. "Sophie, one last desperate text. You think you've won? I'll fight this." I forwarded it to David, who texted back, "Let her try. She's out of moves." Back at the bookstore, I hung a new sign, "New Chapter Sale." Customers poured in, unaware of the victory I just secured. Mrs. Carter, my regular, noticed my lighter mood. "Good day, Ethan?" she asked. "The best," I said, ringing up her books. Sophie had tried to take everything, my money, my business, my dignity. But I'd outplayed her, and the real fight was just beginning. She'd learned what it meant to cross someone who'd been paying attention all along. 2 years after Sophie's betrayal, I stood in the flagship store of Pages of Time, now a chain of 3 thriving bookstores across Chicago. The original shop, once mocked by Sophie as a dusty hobby, buzzed with customers, its shelves gleaming under soft lights. I'd turned her attempt to ruin me into fuel for success. My name is Ethan Wilson, and at 42, I'd not only survived her treachery but built an empire. Today, I was preparing to speak at a business conference, my story no longer one of betrayal but of resilience. The courtroom victory had been the turning point. Sophie's plan to claim half my bookstore collapsed under the weight of my evidence, texts, receipts, bank records proving her $50,000 theft. The judge ordered her to repay it within 48 hours, but she couldn't. She'd blown the money on her failed LA escape with Jake, who dumped her the day of the hearing. Stranded in a budget motel, she faced the wreckage of her choices. My lawyer, David, ensured the final divorce settlement left me with my brownstone, my business, and my dignity intact. Sophie got her clothes, a used car, and a lesson in consequences. Her last text came a week after the hearing. "You ruined everything, Ethan. I'll make you pay." I forwarded it to David, who laughed. "She's got nothing left to fight with." He was right. Her attempts to appeal the settlement crashed, every petition denied, her lies exposed by my meticulous records. Emma, her sister, cut contact after seeing Sophie's true colors. "She tried to blame you for her mess," Emma told me over coffee. "But those texts she sent Jake? Even Mom couldn't defend her." Word spread through mutual friends. Sophie landed a low-paying job as a retail clerk, her marketing career tanked by whispers of her misconduct. Jake, the trainer, moved on to another fling, leaving her in a cramped studio apartment. She'd posted a cryptic social media rant about toxic exes, but deleted it when old colleagues called her out. Her dream of a glamorous new life was dead, replaced by the reality of her own making. Meanwhile, pages of time soared. The new chapter sale after the hearing drew crowds, locals rallying around me as news of Sophie's betrayal leaked. I opened a second store within a year, then a third. An online shop took my books nationwide, and I hired 10 new staff to keep up. Mrs. Carter, my loyal customer, beamed at the grand opening of the second location. "You showed her, Ethan," she said, buying a stack of novels. "This place is your heart." The conference invite came unexpectedly, a national summit for entrepreneurs. They wanted me to share my story, not as a scorned husband, but as a businessman who'd protected his assets against all odds. I stood before a packed room, my voice steady. "Trust your instincts," I said. "Keep records. Preparation isn't paranoia, it's power." A young woman in the audience, eyes wide, asked, "My partner says I'm crazy for keeping separate accounts. What do you think?" I smiled. My ex said the same. Then she tried to take half my business. "Protect yourself first." The room erupted in applause. My story had become a beacon for others, proof that you could rise above betrayal. Back at the flagship store, I hung a framed memento in my office. Sophie's final text, "You're nothing without me," next to a plaque for Chicago's best small business. The irony wasn't lost on me. Her words, meant to break me, were now a reminder of my strength. The bookstore wasn't just a business, it was my legacy built from the ashes of her deceit. Emma dropped by one evening, her first visit in months. "Sophie's still blaming everyone," she said, browsing a display. "She tried to pitch a sob story to a local paper, claiming you tricked her. They didn't buy it, your customers set them straight." I laughed, grateful for the community that had my back. Emma bought a book, her smile warm. "You deserve this, Ethan. All of it." A final surprise came at the third store's opening. A young entrepreneur, Mia, approached me, clutching a business magazine featuring my story. "You inspired me," she said. "I started my own shop, kept my finances separate because of you." Her words hit harder than any award. Sophie had tried to erase me, but I'd become a guide for others, turning pain into purpose. My phone buzzed with a notification, not Sophie, but an order from the online store. Life had moved on, and so had I. She'd thought her betrayal would end me, but it sparked a new chapter. As I locked up the store, I glanced at the framed text one last time. Sophie had written her ending, but I'd written mine, and it was a bestseller.